Imagine someone wishing you failure every day, whispering behind your back, or publicly criticizing you. Feels terrible, right? But what if I told you they're secretly giving you gifts you can't buy? 6 powerful, life-changing gifts that someone who hates you will always give you. Gifts that will shape your character, sharpen your focus, and accelerate your success. You might think hate is purely destructive, but here's the truth. The very people who despise you are forcing you to grow in ways your friends never could. Their negativity becomes a mirror, showing you exactly where you can improve, what you must protect, and who you truly are when no one's cheering for you. Every act of hate, every dismissive comment or critical glance carries a hidden force that can transform into motivation if you choose to see it that way. When someone despises you, it creates a pressure that most people never experience from friends or supporters, because those people tend to comfort and validate rather than challenge. Hate introduces friction into your life, and friction generates heat, energy, and momentum. That energy can be channeled into your ambitions, your work, your growth, and your resilience. It pushes you to rise above mediocrity, to confront obstacles with greater determination, and to prove, first and foremost to yourself, that their opinions do not define your value or potential. Every insult or act of sabotage becomes a spark, igniting a desire to outperform, to excel beyond what anyone expects. It forces you to take stock of your abilities, refine your skills, and strengthen areas of weakness, not for their approval, but for your own self-respect and advancement. This motivation is different from ordinary encouragement because it originates from resistance, from someone actively trying to diminish you. Unlike praise, which can lull you into complacency, hate confronts you with the uncomfortable truth that your path will not be easy and that not everyone will support your journey. That tension awakens creativity, strategic thinking, and persistence. It encourages you to set higher standards, to work tirelessly, and to embrace challenges rather than shy away from them. The discomfort caused by their animosity becomes a lens through which you measure your own progress and ambitions. Ultimately, the energy derived from someone's dislike transforms into a private engine that propels you forward, turning negativity into a personal advantage that relentlessly drives you to accomplish, achieve, and evolve in ways that comfort alone could never provoke. When someone hates you, their behavior often exposes boundaries you may not have noticed before. These boundaries aren't just yours, they are also the lines drawn by others, consciously or unconsciously, in response to your actions, your words, or your presence. Their dislike acts as a magnifying glass, showing you where your energy, your time, and your influence meet resistance. Unlike friends or supporters, who often overlook minor flaws or mistakes, someone who resents you responds sharply to transgressions, oversteps, or behaviors that cross invisible limits. Their reactions highlight areas in which your behavior impacts others or challenges norms, giving you insight into how you operate in social, professional, and personal contexts. This clarity is rarely pleasant. It can feel like rejection, criticism, or even hostility. Yet, it is one of the most honest mirrors available because it is unfiltered. While supporters may cushion the truth or withhold criticism to avoid conflict, a person who dislikes you will respond instinctively, often without restraint, revealing truths that are difficult to uncover otherwise. These boundaries also teach you about the limits of influence and persuasion, showing you where efforts to assert control, gain approval, or change perceptions meet resistance. Understanding this is crucial because it allows you to navigate relationships and interactions more strategically. It also forces a self-assessment of your own behavior, prompting reflection on why certain actions provoke strong reactions. Over time, repeated encounters with these boundary signals sharpen your awareness of social dynamics, human temperament, and personal limits. You begin to recognize patterns, anticipate friction, and adjust your approach without compromising your integrity. In essence, the hate directed at you becomes a roadmap, highlighting not only where others draw lines, but also where you can refine your presence, respect others' limits, and operate with greater clarity and confidence in all areas of life. When someone hates you, their actions, words, and even subtle gestures often serve as an unexpected catalyst for self-reflection. Hate has a way of forcing you to pause and examine yourself, not out of comfort, but because their negativity shines a light on areas of vulnerability or blind spots you might otherwise ignore. Criticism, insults, or persistent disapproval can feel harsh, but beneath the surface, it prompts you to ask uncomfortable questions. Why does this person react so strongly? Are there elements of my behavior, communication, or decisions that are contributing to this tension? Unlike praise, which can mask shortcomings or provide only surface-level validation, hate demands attention. It creates an emotional friction that cannot be easily dismissed, forcing you to confront your own patterns, motives, and even insecurities. This process of reflection is not passive. It requires honesty, introspection, and courage. You are compelled to dissect your actions, evaluate your intentions, and distinguish between perception and reality. Often, this leads to identifying areas where improvement is possible, whether in personal discipline, emotional intelligence, or professional skill. Furthermore, their hate can expose vulnerabilities you may not have been consciously aware of. Perhaps certain habits, communication styles, or decisions elicit strong reactions consistently, and recognizing this pattern allows you to adjust and grow. Over time, this self-reflection cultivates a heightened awareness of how your presence and actions influence others, teaching you to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. By turning the discomfort caused by hate into insight, you develop the ability to see yourself with clarity, without defensiveness or denial. You learn to separate ego from truth, emotion from reason, and reaction from intentional action. In this way, the criticism and disdain of someone who hates you becomes a tool for personal growth, providing a mirror that reflects not only the areas that need strengthening but also the resilience, wisdom, and self-knowledge that emerge when you face these truths directly. Facing someone who hates you consistently exposes you to emotional tension, discomfort, and sometimes even outright hostility, and navigating this environment builds a type of resilience that few other experiences can provide. Emotional resilience is the capacity to endure negative stimuli without losing equilibrium, to remain grounded when confronted with criticism, envy, or passive aggression, and to respond rather than react impulsively. When a person actively dislikes you, their behavior often triggers frustration, anger, or self-doubt, but repeated exposure forces you to develop coping mechanisms that preserve your composure. You learn to regulate your emotions, to observe without immediate judgment, and to choose responses that align with your long-term goals rather than momentary impulses. Over time, this repeated practice strengthens your ability to handle conflict, not just with them, but in all areas of life, because you have cultivated the mental and emotional tools to remain unshaken under pressure. Facing hate also teaches perspective, helping you distinguish between meaningful criticism and baseless attacks, between constructive lessons and personal attacks fueled by jealousy or insecurity. This discernment is essential because it prevents emotional exhaustion and allows you to conserve energy for growth and achievement rather than for defending against negativity. In addition, encountering hostility develops patience, tolerance, and strategic thinking. You begin to anticipate reactions, understand underlying motives, and respond with calculated composure instead of impulsive defensiveness. Over time, this process transforms adversity into strength, as each negative encounter becomes a training ground for emotional endurance, self-control, and mental fortitude. The consistent challenge of maintaining equilibrium in the face of hate conditions your mind to remain stable in uncertainty, persistent in adversity, and confident in your own judgment. The very discomfort that initially feels destabilizing gradually becomes a source of power, allowing you to navigate complex social dynamics, pressure situations, and competitive environments with clarity, focus, and an unshakable inner strength that cannot be taught but must be forged through experience. If you want to turn the hate around and use it as fuel to level up in life, hit that like button and stay tuned, because these 6 gifts will change the way you think about your enemies forever. Observing someone who hates you provides an unfiltered insight into human behavior, motivations, and social dynamics that is rarely accessible through ordinary interactions. Their tactics, whether subtle or overt, reveal patterns of jealousy, envy, manipulation, or fear, offering a live study in how people respond when driven by negative emotions. By paying attention to their strategies, you learn to anticipate behavior, interpret hidden agendas, and recognize the underlying forces that shape decisions and actions. This awareness extends beyond the person who dislikes you, because once you understand the mechanisms they use, you can see them in others, even in situations where hostility is less obvious. For instance, a competitor, colleague, or acquaintance may employ similar tactics, and having witnessed the intensity and subtlety of hate firsthand, you develop the ability to identify these behaviors early and respond strategically rather than reactively. This kind of observation teaches critical lessons in negotiation, influence, and persuasion, because you begin to understand what drives people, how they perceive threats, and how emotions can override logic. It also highlights the importance of timing, tone, and approach when dealing with opposition or resistance, showing that certain actions provoke predictable reactions. Furthermore, watching someone act out of dislike forces you to reflect on your own responses, testing your patience, judgment, and composure. You become more deliberate in your choices, more aware of the consequences of words and actions, and more capable of managing relationships with clarity and intentionality. Over time, this observational learning sharpens your social intelligence, equipping you with the ability to navigate complex interpersonal dynamics effectively. You begin to recognize patterns in conflict, anticipate challenges before they escalate, and respond with strategies that preserve your interests while maintaining professionalism and emotional stability. In essence, the hatred directed at you becomes an involuntary teacher, offering lessons in psychology, strategy, and human behavior that no textbook or mentor could provide with the same immediacy, intensity, and practical relevance. Hate has a way of focusing your mind like nothing else can. When someone actively dislikes you, their negativity acts as a mirror that highlights what truly matters and forces you to prioritize your energy, attention, and effort. Distractions that once seemed significant fade into the background because the hostility you encounter requires mental clarity and strategic thinking. Their disdain becomes a subtle, persistent challenge, a signal that forces you to concentrate on your goals with heightened intensity. In many cases, people spend energy trying to gain approval or avoid criticism. But when faced with someone who cannot be pleased, that energy is redirected inward toward mastery, improvement, and achievement. Hate removes complacency by making it clear that not everyone will support your journey, and this awareness cultivates a drive to act decisively rather than hesitating or procrastinating. It forces you to measure your steps, evaluate your actions, and execute with precision, because the cost of misjudgment or carelessness is amplified in an environment of opposition. The focus developed under these conditions extends beyond immediate challenges, affecting your approach to long-term goals and personal development. You begin to understand that obstacles, whether external or internal, require concentrated effort and persistence, and you cultivate a mindset that values consistent, deliberate progress. Additionally, the presence of hate teaches discipline. The knowledge that someone is watching, waiting, or hoping for your failure motivates you to remain accountable to yourself, to push beyond comfort zones, and to maintain standards even when external recognition is absent. Over time, this heightened focus transforms adversity into a strategic advantage, allowing you to achieve clarity, maintain direction, and operate with efficiency under pressure. The hate directed at you becomes a forcing function for productivity, resilience, and unwavering determination, sharpening both your mental and emotional faculties so that every action is intentional, every effort measured, and every goal pursued with relentless focus. Experiencing hate from someone forces you to develop humility and perspective in ways that comfort and support never can. When someone actively dislikes you, their criticism or disdain provides a stark contrast to the people who support and encourage you, allowing you to recognize the value of genuine allies and the importance of positive relationships. This contrast highlights the difference between constructive engagement and destructive negativity, teaching you to appreciate encouragement, loyalty, and honest feedback more deeply. Facing hatred also keeps your ego in check. It reminds you that success, recognition, or personal achievements are not guarantees of universal approval, and that your worth is not determined by the opinions of others, particularly those who act out of resentment or envy. Humility emerges as you learn to separate external judgment from internal validation, to maintain confidence without arrogance, and to accept that not every action will be met with praise. Perspective grows because encountering opposition forces you to view situations from multiple angles. You begin to understand why people react negatively, what triggers conflict, and how personal insecurities, jealousy, or fear can distort perception. This awareness allows you to navigate relationships and challenges with empathy and strategic insight, reducing the likelihood of overreaction or misjudgment. Over time, exposure to hate teaches patience and emotional intelligence as you observe behavior without internalizing every slight or insult. It cultivates the ability to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively, to prioritize meaningful feedback over empty criticism, and to recognize that some battles are not worth engaging. Moreover, the presence of hate encourages gratitude for those who genuinely support and respect you, reinforcing the importance of community, mentorship, and collaboration. By learning to value these relationships, maintain self-respect, and approach conflict with awareness rather than defensiveness, the experience of being hated shapes your character, balances your self-perception, and strengthens your capacity to interact with the world from a grounded, resilient, and clear-minded perspective. When someone hates you, their actions often create obstacles, resistance, or closed doors. But these challenges can unintentionally open new opportunities you might never have considered. Their negativity may push you away from familiar paths, traditional approaches, or expected solutions, forcing you to explore alternatives, innovate, or take risks that you would otherwise avoid. In this sense, the opposition they provide becomes a catalyst for creativity and growth. By resisting your progress or attempting to undermine your efforts, they compel you to develop strategies, identify unconventional solutions, and seek resources or alliances that were previously overlooked. This process can lead to unexpected successes, collaborations, or insights that become pivotal in your personal or professional journey. Their hate also exposes weaknesses, inefficiencies, or areas where your approach may be too comfortable or predictable. Addressing these challenges encourages adaptability and problem-solving, sharpening skills that are essential in complex and competitive environments. Additionally, the presence of someone actively working against you heightens awareness of the broader landscape, forcing you to evaluate opportunities more critically, recognize emerging possibilities, and act decisively when chances arise. In many cases, the redirection caused by their obstruction leads to paths that align more closely with your strengths, values, or long-term goals, which may not have been obvious if the journey had remained smooth or unchallenged. Beyond tangible opportunities, their opposition also cultivates mental resilience and resourcefulness. Learning to navigate resistance, overcome barriers, and extract value from adversity develops confidence and independence, reinforcing the understanding that success is not handed to those who avoid conflict, but earned by those who persevere strategically. Ultimately, the hate directed at you functions as a hidden guide, redirecting your trajectory, encouraging exploration of untapped potential, and revealing possibilities that would remain undiscovered without the very resistance they impose, transforming obstruction into a pathway for growth, insight, and unexpected advancement. The people who hate you may seem like obstacles, but in reality, they are unintentional teachers, shaping your growth, resilience, and perspective in ways that comfort never could. Their criticism, disdain, and resistance push you to work harder, reflect deeper, and sharpen your focus, forcing you to confront your weaknesses while strengthening your strengths. They reveal boundaries, expose blind spots, and highlight patterns in human behavior that refine your strategy and judgment. Facing their negativity builds emotional endurance, cultivates humility, and enhances your ability to navigate complex relationships with clarity and composure. Every insult, every act of sabotage, and every moment of opposition carries hidden gifts, motivation, insight, perspective, and the redirection toward opportunities you may never have explored. By recognizing and embracing these lessons, you transform hate from a source of distraction or pain into a powerful force that accelerates your personal and professional growth, strengthens your character, and equips you to thrive in any environment, turning adversity into advantage and negativity into an engine for success.